All right, so this session is on how to write a statement of purpose. Again, my name is Christian DiGregorio, Director of International Recruitment for York College of Pennsylvania. Just a quick note, colleges and universities are a bit of the same in the United States. We use the terms synonymously. It usually refers to the size. So colleges tend to be a little bit smaller, but still offer bachelor's and master's and PhD programs. Universities are larger and they're structured a little bit differently, and they also offer bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs. Okay, so why is a statement of purpose important? It is part of the application, and it allows us, the university representatives and the admissions committee, to see you in a little bit different perspective. Okay, and we talked about this a little bit right before we got started. You know, this is a chance for you to express yourself and show your personality, your experiences, your background, and so forth. And these are things that we can't get from, you know, a test score, that we can't get from, you know, your mark sheets. You know, it just kind of lets us give a little more insight. So from here, we want to know about your dedications to your studies, your academic experiences, maybe your life experiences, and I'm going to share with you an actual essay from a student of ours that just moved in and began his studies on Friday. So this is a real essay and something that's very recent. It's not from 20 years ago. You know, what are your talents and accomplishments? And you have to think of it from the standpoint that every challenge is an opportunity. And the essay that I'm going to include really says that, and some other examples I'm going to give you, where the person took a challenge and they made something positive out of it. All right, now when you're writing the essay on the bachelor level, and it looks like we have quite a few bachelor level students, you may have a preset list of topics given to you, and I'll talk about those in the next few slides. And some will leave the statement completely open. In some cases, it might be, why do you want to study at my school? In this case, York. Or it might be something like very simple, you know, what motivates you, or what's important to you, and what matters most in your life, how you have an impact on others, maybe what you're going to bring to my university. And if you go with that topic, this is especially important on the master's level. If you choose the topic of what you're going to bring to someone's university, really research the university that you're going to be applying to. This is not, something you should take lightly. Really try to understand who that school is. And when you go to a school's website, there's a link. It's on every single website in the United States for American colleges and universities. It's called About Us. You click on About Us, and you'll learn about the school's mission and how they're structured and their values. All of it's listed right there. So that's a great link to go to when you have a topic that's open like this. What are you going to bring to my university? Because you really have to understand what they believe in and what they're after, and see if that is a match for what you believe in. Other topics are going to be very specific, maybe about an academic program. So it'd be like, why do you want to be a doctor? Something like that. Some schools will allow you to not only write, but you can use videos or pictures. This student, her name's Jill, and she did a video, and I forget the name of the school, but it's in the video, and she just did a really great job. It wasn't a fancy video. It was just a little bit of what we call stop motion animation. And she pulled it off brilliantly, and she put in some music and really told a story about her and what she's like and what's important to her. And it was just really well done. So I wanted to put that in there. If you're approached with this kind of topic, how you can kind of go about navigating that. All right. This is going to continuation of the bachelor level topics. There's some schools that belong to something called the Common Application. And there's over 500 schools that are part of the Common Application in the United States. There's a few other platforms. But a Common Application, what that allows you to do is apply to multiple schools with one application. So it's pretty neat concept. York is part of this platform, and these are the topics that they will assign you. These are the same as last year. So they took last year's topics, there's been no changes, and this is what they're going to use for this year. So I'm just going to read one or two of them. Number 3 is reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking and what was the outcome? So here they're trying to get you to talk about an encounter you had where you always thought a certain way, you came upon some information, and then maybe that changed your mind. And something like this is important to schools because when you study in the United States, you're studying with people from all corners of the United States, all 50 states. And when you're working with people like that, you'll be meeting with people all over the world, in fact. Everybody's going to have different experiences and different outcomes, different beliefs. And when you meet these people, you may come upon something just like this. You know, and I'm always of the belief that there's not one person in this world that knows everything. But together, through meeting people, you're going to know and learn a lot more. So that's something that's really important, and it's what schools want you to think about, because your beliefs are going to get challenged, which is a good thing. Not aggressively challenged, but you're going to come upon different information. And schools want you to think in a way where you can maybe analytically think about what you thought was true and possibly change your beliefs or come upon more information and strengthen that belief. But they just want you to be open. Here's another one, number 5. Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself and others. Very similar to number 3, okay? You came upon some information, and now you've grown from that information, whatever that is. So these are some really good topics. When you get to the master's level topics, you want something that's, if something's open-ended, they want a clear and concise statement of interest, which is, basically, and I'll jump down to the end there. By attending, in this case, York of Pennsylvania, I will be able to pursue my dream of becoming whatever that is. Maybe it's something like, I'll be able to help my country, my people, my community, my economy by doing whatever that is. Okay, so those are some statements that you could use. It's something that you want to answer during your response, during your essay. Maybe it's what impacted your your decision to study medicine, psychology, business, whatever that might be. Why you're interested in my school, I want to know that. Why do you want to come to York? Why, and this is where going to that website and clicking on About Us really comes in handy. You should also get to know the faculty members you might be studying under. Okay, so let's use the example of psychology. All right, so let's say, hypothetically speaking, for example, you really like Sigmund Freud, and you believe in a lot of things from his research and his writings and so forth. But the faculty you're going to be studying under, they're more cognitive behavior theory, it's a little different. So if you're Sigmund Freud and you're going to cognitive behavior, that might not be a good match between yourself and those faculty members and their research. So you'd want to find a school that has that research, So that's where we talk about things like fit. Is that going to be a good fit? Probably not going to be a good fit. You want something where you're interested in the faculty's research, or there's a match somewhere with one or two of them. We also want to see long-term goals, and share your contributions to the field after graduation. What are you going to do after you graduate? How are you going to contribute to the field, in this case of psychology? How's that going to work? All right, this is going to go more to the logistics. Choose a font that's easy to read. Good font. It's kind of like the one that's written here in this PowerPoint. A bad font is the one right underneath. Don't get fancy. You know, we're reading, God, admissions officers are reading, maybe like, depends on the school, but it could be anywhere from 500 to 1,000 essays in a year. So we want things to be clear, and we like it when people take it easy on our eyes. So we just want to be able to get through that. At least 1.5 are double spaced. And again, we're going to be reading a lot of essays. Your statements really are going to be about 1 to 2 pages. When you get to 6, 7, or 8 pages, that's when there's problems. And what happens is everything that you thought was important, that you wanted to get into that essay as an admissions offer, and I'm reading that, I'm not gonna adhere. I'm not gonna, really listen to what you're saying. I'm just trying to get through the essay at that point. And eventually, if I can't get through it because it's so long, I'm just going to put it off to the side. Okay, so be clear, concise. 1 to 2 pages will normally do the trick, and that's a good thing. Master's level, read and follow the prompts very carefully. If it's open-ended, fine. I gave you some examples. If it's not open-ended, make sure you follow the directions. And the professors are really going to be judging how well you follow directions. Okay, so they're thinking, okay, if I give an assignment to this person and they couldn't complete the essay when they're an applicant properly, what's going to happen when I give them that assignment and they can't do that properly? The student's going to be a headache. So make sure you follow the directions. And even though you may be applying to, let's say, and I've had students do this, they'll apply to one school and they're thinking about applying for an MBA, but they're also thinking of applying for computer science. Even though it's the same school, the essay prompt or topic may change from the MBA to computer science. It might be completely different. So don't just think, well, if I do the MBA essay and I change my mind to pursue computer science, I could just use the same essay. That might not be the case. Again, choose a font that's easy to read, have it spaced accordingly. Now, what's different on the master's level or doctoral is that your statement of purpose will most likely be read by professors and not the admissions officers. So the admissions committees are a little bit different on the bachelor's level than the master's level. Master's level is mostly professors. There might be an admissions officer who's going to read that and just kind of make sure that it's there. The professors are going to be the one who's really scrutinizing that essay. Whereas on the undergraduate level, it'll be admissions officers, professors, some other offices around campus. There's a lot of people that sit on the admissions committee for a bachelor level student. All right, let's talk about the structure. And I'm really going to focus on the introduction and the conclusion today. So the introduction is a general statement. It's a general paragraph where you're just trying to get the reader's attention. The body, which is the middle part, gets to be a little more specific in detail. And the conclusion summarizes the essay and what was discussed. All right, so let's talk about the essay, the introduction portion. So you're setting the tone. This is the best chance to grab the reader's attention. And I'll tell you an essay that I received a few years ago, possibly the best essay I ever had, okay? And it was this girl. She was applying for a bachelor level program, and she starts the essay talking about her family. And it turns out that she had about 6 or 7 siblings, big family. I think she was 7th. So she had 6 brothers and sisters. And she opens the essay with how much she disliked her brothers and sisters. And she starts the essay with Jeremy, I hate you. You're so annoying. And, you're my sister. You need so much care and so much work. And I'm reading this essay and I'm going, oh my goodness, who starts an essay with how much they dislike their family? I was shocked, but I had to keep reading. I said, I got to know what goes on. And what she does is she took that and changed it to a positive. She said, Jeremy, you're so annoying. You taught me patience. Her other sister, who was very young, and needed to be cared for, she said, "You taught me compassion." And she goes through all of her siblings like this. And then I was like, wow, this was a great essay where she took something, and it's only human to feel a certain way, to be annoyed maybe sometimes with your family members, but then to make it something so positive, and how those people had an impact on her life was really great. And I immediately called the school and I said, I gotta meet this girl. I gotta get to talk to her on the phone, something. And she was, just a great essay. I couldn't say enough. But that's kind of the impact that your essay can have. Now I'll read you, this is an essay. The only problem with it is not spaced well. So that's the only problem I found in it. So I'll read this portion to you if it's a little unclear. It's a little blurry when I took the screenshot. But this is from a student who starts classes today. They moved in on Friday. And this is how she started. So I'm at Alfred DuPont Hospital for Children, and my appointment has finally begun. I'm sitting on the nurse's lap. I'm about to have my blood drawn. I'm feeling very anxious and tense. I notice that my mother is feeling this way as well. However, once the nurse puts the butterfly needle into my vein, I know that I'm safe where I am. I know that nothing bad or dangerous will happen to me when I'm in the hands of the nurse. So this is how they begin, and I'm looking at this, I'm going, I got to keep reading. Did they set the tone? Absolutely. Did they grab my attention, the reader's attention? You bet. And I had to keep reading this essay to find out what happened, because the person is obviously thinking back to some time ago when this was occurring. So we're kind of going into this different tense. So I really had to finish reading this. We're going to jump to the conclusion, and I'll talk a little bit about what she talked about in the body, the main part of it. So in your conclusion, you're summarizing the main points of your essay. You're giving me, the reader, something to think about. You want to stress those main points, maybe why your argument matters, and make your final argument on maybe why you should be admitted. Okay? So I won't read this whole paragraph. I'm going to start in the middle. So it says, throughout life, I always strive to help people and let them know that I am there to comfort them to get through the moments of uncertainty in their lives. By interacting with various types of patients as a summer volunteer on the respiratory floor at DuPont Hospital for Children, or talking to fellow students while donating blood for the first time at my school's annual blood drive, I have learned to communicate with others who may be scared in a positive and reassuring way. With this, I hope to leave a positive impact on many people, as the nurses did with me. So what the person was talking about in their essay was they went into something that was, they were nervous, but they trusted the nurse to take care of them. And they wanted to give that feeling to hopefully their future patients that the student was going to have after they graduated. So you learn a lot just from these two paragraphs. So set aside the body for a minute. Just in these two paragraphs, I learned a lot about this student. I know what their motivation is that I talked about earlier. I know about what they're going to do after they graduate. So it's motivation, what they're going to do after they graduate, why they want to be. In this case, it was a respiratory therapist that they wanted to do, and how they're going to have an impact on their community. That's already there in the introduction and the conclusion as well. So they just did a really nice job. And it's almost like the body, not that it doesn't matter, because they supported all these arguments, but just the beginning and the end really got the points across. They really stressed some things to me as the reader. The conclusion, they tied everything up in a nice little package, and I was able to learn a lot from that student. So as you're doing your conclusion, give something for the reader to think about and reinforce what you believe in and the main points of your essay. Other characteristics of a good essay: don't be one-sided. Use multiple perspectives, all right? This shows your ability to consider other people's opinions and think analytically. Think about what I said in the beginning. You're meeting people from all over the United States and all over the world. Everyone's going to have different opinions and experiences and beliefs, and they're going to bring that to school. This is one of the great things about studying in the United States. You have access to all these different perspectives, and you should learn from all these different perspectives. Whether you agree with them or not, doesn't matter. Just that you're aware of different people's opinions and thoughts and beliefs. Don't be negative. So don't come in and, judge people the wrong way and just kind of leave it at that. Be honest, be unique, be specific and to the point. Don't write on and on 6 pages. You don't need to do that. Come from it from the mindset of not trying to impress me, but what's important to you. Don't write about what you think I want to hear. Write what's important to you. So the examples that I gave, these people clearly wrote about what was important to them. All right, these are common mistakes. Have someone proofread your essay. There's a little cartoon there at the bottom, so they wrote college with 2 L's. Allow time to pass between revisions. So don't try to sit down and write everything all at once. So, I recently wrote an article for a publication, and I wrote it over the course of 4 weeks. Okay, I just didn't sit down and try and write it and crank it out all at once. You're going to make mistakes. So do not write your beyond your capability and use complex words. Complex words doesn't impress me so much. What's going to impress me is the thought behind those words. Now, what are admissions officers thinking? As people like me, what are they thinking? What really goes into judgment of your application? And this is what we're thinking. Can the applicant succeed if they're admitted? Can they be successful and graduate? This is what we want to know. This is what we're trying to determine from your application. So that question in and of itself is probably the most important. If I can answer that from looking at your application and not just your statement of purpose, but your test grades and your mark sheets and your letters of recommendation, that's a good thing. How are you going to contribute to my university? So that student, where I listed their paragraph in there, they ran blood drive, they organized blood drives for their school. That's really good. That's really great stuff. What's their motivation? Can you communicate your thoughts and ideas? So if you're having a class discussion, can you communicate a thought that you had or an idea that you have to others? Because again, we're trying to share information. That's going to college. You're sharing information from your professors, information from your students and others. What kind of alumni are you going to become? How are you going to represent my institution after you graduate? Can you demonstrate long-term and short-term goals? And are you resilient? Do you handle challenges well? So if you're going to come to the United States and study, you're leaving an education system that maybe you're used to, and you're coming to something that could be different. You're coming to a different culture, so that's going to be different. There's going to be challenges. Are you going to fold up, or are you going to, respond to those challenges and overcome those challenges? That's some of the things I'm trying to get from your application. But the first one I listed, can the applicant be successful if I admit you? That's what I really want to know. Final words of caution here. I see this a lot. Be aware of any website, article, or agent, consultant that says, if you pay this fee, I'm going to make sure that you'll get accepted if you follow my advice. Stay away from those people. Stay away from those websites, whatever you need to do. You don't need to do that. You don't need to pay a fee to get, expert advice. The advice I'm giving you today is completely free. There's a lot of good free information. I'm going to give you some resources at the end. Start early and allow yourself enough time to think through all of your options and make sure that you can do your revisions. It's not the only thing used to determine your admission. Okay. Yes, it's true we could scrutinize your essay a little bit more because many schools in the United States are not going to look at the SAT. We're going to be test optional, mostly because the SAT is not going to be available to a lot of people. So, we're not going to penalize you for something you can control. Do not copy or what we call plagiarize. We will find out. And the way we find out is when we get an essay, it's scanned and it's run through a software that scours the internet and looks for similar sentences, and we'll get a report back, and the essay is highlighted where things might have been the same all over the United States, all over the world, all over the web. It searches everywhere. And if we find out that you plagiarized, that report comes back and it'll give like you a percentage of how much was similar on the web. You know, if it's past a certain percentage point, say like 30%, 40%, you get denied admission and you can't reapply. I've had people do this, and you know, it's very unfortunate. And sometimes I wish people would just write the essay to begin with. It would have, you know, they would have had a much better chance. All right, here's some great resources. There's 4 of them here. There's Essay Edge, which is a statement of purpose. Now, you could write the format. There's Khan Academy. Big Future, which is the College Board. You can click on that one. GoGrad.org. It's a good one for if you're a master's level student or a doctoral level student when you're writing a personal statement. Those are some really good resources. So real quick, York College of Pennsylvania, we are a university. We kind of specialize in engineering, business, computer science, cybersecurity, marketing, biology, chemistry. So those STEM fields we're really good at. We are ABET accredited. And ABET is a third-party organization that puts their stamp of approval on certain programs. And they don't accredit everyone. They don't approve of everyone, but we are one of the few schools that they have approved for that. So it's kind of a big deal. So our engineering and computer science programs are ABET approved. ACBSP is for our business schools. Our tuition costs, and I'll get to the scholarships here in just a minute. Tuition level degrees are going to range from $22,000 to $28,000. That's for the entire degree. Master degrees in general last about 2 years. Bachelor level tuition is under $22,000 per year. There are some small scholarships available. Test scores, if you do apply through us, GRE and GMAT are not required. We will take the IELTS, TOEFL, or Duolingo. They are accepted if your education is not in English. SAT and ACT may be required for some academic programs. However, we are most likely going to be SAT optional this year. I want to talk a little bit about paid co-ops. So a paid co-op is a cooperative education. So all of our engineering students get a co-op. And what it is a paid internship. And our students make approximately $740 per week, which is really good. There's a lot of people who don't make that kind of money here in the United States. And that lasts 42 weeks. So you figure 42 weeks times 740, that's a pretty good salary. One of the nice things you can do is you can study and get co-ops outside of the United States, just as long as it's a US-based firm, engineering company. As long as that happens, you can do that in Almaty, which is really neat. Our hospitality majors, they have paid internships as well. Not all of our majors and programs will offer a paid internship, but hospitality will, and obviously engineering does as well. CPT and OPT, in general terms, CPT means internships. That stands for curricular practical training. And OPT is optional practical training. It's what it is, it's optional. And you take OPT after you're done your classes. The great thing about OPT is that allows you to work in the United States for up to 1 year and make a US salary. And if you're a STEM field, let's say engineering or computer science or math, you can study for up to 3 years in the United States, which is really great. So think of it this way. If you do engineering, We have some scholarships that will range anywhere from $2,000 to $8,000. Then you could do a paid co-op for engineering. That's $740 a week for a minimum of 42 weeks. Then you can do OPT after you graduate for up to 3 years and make more of a U.S. salary. That's a really good deal. And the way it works for our paid co-ops is, you start in your second year, and then do a little more in your third year, and then do a little more in your fourth year. So it's spread out and not done all at once, but it's nice money to make. Our location, we are close to Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia. And our campus has recently put in $160 million in improvements. So we've put a lot into our facilities, a lot into our labs, put a lot of money into our infrastructure, so our students can learn better. Some of the pictures you see there, the one is of a building, and that's our theater, and there's some classrooms in there. That's some of the improvements. The other picture is a race car that our mechanical engineers made. So that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. They really enjoyed that. If after the presentation you'd like to talk more, I am on Telegram. I am on WhatsApp. That's my number. That's my email address. My name, again, is Christian DiGregorio, Director of International Recruitment. So it looks like we have some questions coming in.
So they're asking about master level topics for essays. Maybe you can talk about those topics.
So yeah, master level topics, the big question that you're going to get faced with, you need to answer a couple questions. And it's by attending whatever school that is you're applying to, I'll be able to pursue my dream of, and then whatever that is, whatever your dream is. I'll be able to help my country, my people, my community by doing whatever that is. And then we also want to know what impacted your decision to study. And again, look at the faculty members, research the faculty members at the school you're going to be applying to, and make sure you're applying to a school that matches to what you believe in.
Should the essay better be about the obstacles that we had in the academics, for example, school or life obstacles?
I think that's up to you. I mean, I would choose the obstacle, and maybe both had really great impacts on you. What led to ultimately you wanting to study? If it's both of those, great. It might not be an either or type of scenario. In this case, the essay that I shared, it was a life obstacle that had an impact on their academics. So I don't know if I would make it like a one or the other. I would list what ultimately led to your decision to study what you want to study.
How to compensate or explain a low GPA in a statement of purpose?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've gotten a few of these over the years, and sometimes it is, there's family situations. So I'll give you an example. I had a student, they had to, their studies suffered because they sacrificed themselves. So there were multiple family members that were sick. So the person, instead of focusing on their studies, focused on the care that they had to give to some parents, and that, that explains it. And that says a lot about the character of the student. So if you have a scenario like that's one way to kind of get by it. Sometimes people, they don't do well in the classroom initially. And then as they get older, they learn a little bit more. Their experiences are different. And, the light goes on, as we say. All of a sudden, they kind of find their academic groove and they start doing really well, but it's kind of too late and the GPA overall has suffered. I would be honest. Talk about your situation and maybe what you learned from it. Was it something that maybe you were young and maybe you were immature and you've been working in the field since then? So, be honest. Talk about what you learned from that experience and why your GPA suffered and what you've done in the meantime since you've left school to now at that application process, and how you've changed, how your life has changed since then. That's how I would, without knowing the person's situation, that's how I would go about it.
Question from a student who will apply for an undergraduate degree. What are other things that determine the admission in addition to the essay?
The thing that's going to have an impact are your marks or your grades. It could be the classes that you took as well. So if you take classes that were not very challenging, we're going to look at that. If you have test scores, we will take a look at that. I know this year is going to be a little bit different. Your letters of recommendation. So if you have a professor that sends us a letter and says good things about you, that can, in the United States, that goes far. You know, it says, you know, this student was a good student in my class. They did their work. They never gave us or any other students any problems. They were very focused. You know, that's a good letter of recommendation. That's going to go far in addition to the statement of purpose.
Could you explain the process of the work of the admissions office? For example, if you read one student's essay and think the student deserves to be admitted, are you the only one who decides at the end, or the yeah?
We are not usually the only person that decides that. So it's generally a committee. I've never seen a school or worked at a school, and I've you know worked at 3 schools now, where it was only one person. It's always 1 or 2 looks, you know, or I should say 2 or 3 looks at the least. And most of the time, it's a committee of people. So it's not just one person.
Is the statement of purpose as important for graduate program as for the undergraduate program?
Again, I'm not sure one is more important than the other. I would say it's of equal importance. I would say maybe the big difference is for the master's degree, we're going to take a look at more of what you want to get out of your education a little bit more. An undergraduate student, as they enter education, they tend to find different interests, and not, I don't want to say change their mind because that sounds a bit negative, but they grow with their experiences. So their thoughts and their interests are a little more fluid, whereas a master's level student is going to be a little more specific.
For an undergraduate degree, how many international students do you accept each year on average?
On average, let me see, what did I do this year? I might have been about 200. It was funny, I was doing a presentation for another Education USA office in Pakistan. It was about you know, trying to find balance in your college search list, because everyone wants to go to Harvard and the Ivy League schools, and I showed the numbers. You know, Harvard accepted, I think it was about 275 international students. That was it for the year. I'm not comparing myself to Harvard in any way. I'm just saying, you know, sometimes you go to a dream school, or you think you have this dream school in mind, and they don't accept many international students.
CPT and OPT are granted, or there is a competition between students to get enrolled?
Well, think of it this way. You're trying to start with OPT, you're trying to get a job. So there is an interview, and the employer has to like you. CPT is a little bit easier. All schools will help you find placement with internships, not just York. So when you're looking for CPT or internship, you have your professors, you have certain offices that will help you, especially your what we call career development offices. They'll help you. And the same thing with OPT, but ultimately you have to apply and get a job like you would anyone else. So from that standpoint, it's competitive.
Do you prefer when people add a bit of humor in their essay, or is it generally preferred when essay is formal?
I can speak for myself. I don't mind a little bit of humor, but it really depends on the school. I wouldn't get too crazy. A little bit of sarcasm, I've always been a big fan of. It tends to be a little more formal. So I guess it depends on the reader. You know, again, I wouldn't get too crazy. If you want to slip in something, that's okay. It's okay by me anyway.
Should the essay include my extracurriculars or my future profession? What if I have not decided about my major?
So do your extracurriculars and your future profession, and maybe how they support each other. Okay. So by, you know, let's say if you're a business student and you have a business club that you belong to, or you have some sort of interest that supports your academic major, that's a good thing. If you're undecided, a lot of schools in the United States really welcome undecided majors. We do it at York, and you could be undecided for, I think, up to 2 years, because there's a lot of different classes that you have to take, and they call that your core classes. So everybody has to take certain math, maybe a psychology class, a couple sciences, some composition writing, and so forth. Everybody has to take those. So if you're undecided, you can do that, and then go into your decided major. So you have some time. It's okay to be undecided.
If I realized late what I want to do and focused on other subjects, how do I prove I really want to study the major I'm applying to? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I have no achievements in computer science, but I want to study it as a bachelor degree. How do I show that I'm eager to study?
I would say what led to that decision. So if you're going through and saying, okay, I really want to study computer science, what made you want to think and feel that way? All right. What made you want to, change your mind or pursue that field? That is kind of where I would go with it. Maybe it was an experience that you had. Maybe it was a friend that you talked to. Maybe it was an uncle who works in the business. That's what I would want.
If I'm not able to take SAT, where should I write about it? In additional information or a COVID-19 essay?
Usually in additional information, sometimes it could be even in an email to an admissions representative. Just somewhere where you can document that you informed the admissions representative that it's just not available and there's nothing I can do about it.
How many essays do you recommend to have for applying? I heard that applying with one essay to every college is not so good, so that we should have several working essays. Is it true?
It is true that one essay to every college, probably not a good idea unless you're all applying through the Common App, and the Common App, you're just using that one, that one topic. If that's not the case, you really got to look at the school and what they're asking for and what the prompt is. That's why it's not a good idea. I kind of used the example, it was a graduate example, but if you're going through it from, okay, I'm applying for the MBA, but I might also want computer science, you can't always use the same essay because the prompts or the topics are going to be very different. That's why it's not good. So I would take a look at the schools that you're applying to, look at their directions, and look at the topics that they provide. And that will be an indication of how many different essays you need to write. And I've received essays in the past where the person submits their essay and it's the incorrect college name that they're applying to. That's a little embarrassing for the student. Another reason why you don't want to use the same essay for everybody. So look at the schools you're applying to, and that will give you the number of how many essays you need to write.
Can you explain how Duolingo is accepted in scoring test?
Yeah, so
How is it
Duolingo is
working?
a really interesting test. It's an English language test, and you take it online, and your scores are given back to you online, and students forward me a link, and then I go and I verify the score. There is a video option there, so it'll kind of be like this kind of setup where they'll ask you a question, and you have to do a video response. So they're trying to gauge your how good you are at speaking, and that's how they do it. But you'll get given a link, and a link is sent to you with your test results, and then that link could be then forwarded to us, and then we attach it to your file.
A student is applying for a master's degree, and he graduated with one major, but he is applying to another major.
Okay.
What should that student do?
Some schools will allow this, and there are quite a few schools that I've worked at where I'm going to use the MBA in computer science one, or no, let's do this. We'll do nursing in computer science because that's very different. You have someone who's working as a nurse, or their education was to be a nurse, but now they want to get a master's degree in computer science. All right, this is very different. What a lot of schools will do is they'll say, okay, we'll accept you because you were a really good student when you were studying nursing, and we think you'll be a good student for computer science because you seem very dedicated in your studies. So we'll accept you, but what you have to do is you have to study and complete these classes first, then you can kind of jump in and begin classes with us. So if you have that scenario, if that is possible, I would really take a look at kind of what led you to that decision, to changing fields, going from nursing to computer science, very different. What made you want to change? What are you going to bring to my school? And kind of what are you going to do after you graduate? I think those would be three things that I would want to know right away.
Can I get full free education? What should I do for it?
Okay. Very, very few institutions in the United States will give a free education, like full tuition scholarship. There's really not many out there at all. And if they do offer it, you have to think about all the different students who are going to be applying for that. The good news is that if you're going to take anything good out of COVID, there are more scholarships, and some of them are calling them COVID relief scholarships. So be on the lookout for that. And I know Education USA sends out scholarship notifications as well as they get them. So don't expect a free education, but expect more scholarships. That would be the trend that I see.